Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody. This is Cream of the Crop, a fantasy hockey podcast presented by Apples and Ginos. Thank you, Apples and Ginos, for the presentation. I'm your host, Blake Creamer. Please follow me over on X/Twitter at Blake Creamer AG. Also, click the link in the description if you want to get into the Apples and Ginos Discord. We got a lot of stuff popping off in there. There's a bunch of different channels. You can have some great conversations with like-minded fantasy managers. Just a fun hoot of a time we're having in there. So get your biscuits in there. You know the drill. Also, please, while I got you, if you can, we would love it if you would rate the pod. All right. Just head on over, click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. That's probably, if we're being honest, that's what we like. But whatever you like, just if you're liking this content, please go over and give the pod a rating. And I should mention as well, Apples and Ginos has a YouTube channel where we post some of these videos. So, if this is doing it for you, head over to YouTube and check it out. But thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I've got another fantasy all-star here with me today to do another ADP battle. Oh my God. These have been going so well, and I've been having a good time, and I just keep ramping it up. I want to get some more talent in here, and I feel good about the guest today. It's none other than the managing editor and a terrific writer over at Dobber Hockey, Ian Gooding. Ian, thank you so much for being here. How was your summer, my man?
It was great. Did some traveling around. Went up to Kootenay National Park on the BC Alberta border. Checked out the mountains. Went to a few other places closer to home, and it's been good. Went by quickly, that's for sure.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. Before I had kids, summer to me, I'm not even complaining, but it just felt like it was a long time. It was like a big, long break. And now that I have kids, it's like, what the hell happened to the time? It's freaking gone. All right, it's September already. It's dark at night. Oh my God. I don't approve of this, but that's fine. Did you take the family anywhere? You guys did, that was a whole family vacation. You went up there?
Yeah, the Kootenay trip was just my oldest son and I. My wife and younger son aren't huge on traveling, but we made a couple of trips with them as well. Um, we've spent some time together as a family. I think we're kind of happy that the kids are going back to school now. It's probably about time. 2 months and kind of stuck together is a long time. So it's about time for them to go to school now.
Yeah, spoken like an absolutely normal parent. All right. It's September, time to go to school. All right, here's your books. No wonder parents are so excited with back to school shopping, right? Like, here you go. Here, you want this? No problem. Like, whatever. Like,
Oh,
just get to school,
those
please.
commercials, I used to dread them. I'd start seeing them in the beginning of August when I was a kid. I was like, no, no, no.
Oh,
And then all of a sudden as your parent, you're like, oh, well, you know what? It's kind of a double-edged sword too, because you kind of, well, summer's over. It's going to start to, the weather's going to start to cool down a bit. There's that. But the kids are going back to school, and hockey season's, it's another month away. So we're, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Oh, absolutely. That's just cruel, actually. Like I remember that as a kid too. It's like mid-July and they're like back to school sale, and they're like, what the hell? Like, who hurt you? First of all, like, who's the person that put this on the television? Yeah, no, that's just cruel and unusual punishment. But for parents, you're like, yeah, let's go get that. Let's go get some binders. I was the kid in school that basically never had a pencil. I never had paper. And so I would go in, I'd be like, can I borrow a pencil, like paper? And then I
Yeah.
would like write something. I don't even know what, probably my signature like 20 times. And
Yeah.
then, I did that. I graduated. So, congratulations to me. But yeah, back to school, wasted time for me. Anywho, I'm digressing as I usually do. That's not why we're here. We're here to do battle, Ian. All right. I got some beef with you, buddy. We got to do some
All
battle on
right.
ADPs. No, I honestly, I don't think anyone has beef with Ian. It's not possible.
Right. It is possible. It's
Yeah.
possible
Oh,
on Twitter. It happens all the time. So
okay.
I'm used to it. I'm ready for the debate here.
Oh, dang. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting when I've been doing this for over a year now. You've been doing a lot longer. When you put yourself out there and you put your opinions out there, you open yourself up to criticism, don't you? It's like, and like I've been getting some really funny comments. I guess not funny, like feedback. And thank you for the feedback, everyone. But someone commented recently, like, enough with the sound drops or something like that, and I was just like, that I just gotta be myself. Damn it. You know what? I'm doing this for fun. I gotta make it fun for me. All right. But yeah, it's just interesting. You put yourself out there and you don't know what's coming back, do you?
Mhm. Well, it's your personality, right? I mean, the show is part of your personality. So, it's kind of a normal thing now too. You hear little sound drops and just references, pop culture references, and that, and throw in. It's fun. I mean, when I listened to the show before, I'll be honest, I don't know all of them, but some of them are pretty funny.
That's okay. Well, thank you for saying some of them are funny, Ian. I really appreciate that.
Well,
All right,
the other ones I don't know. I just simply don't know.
you know what? We've got time. I can work with you. We'll take it offline. I'll give you a
Okay,
little bit of just a crash
sure.
course.
Just give me
But
a crash
that
course.
the funny thing is, like the way those sound drops are, like that's what it sounds like in my brain. Like the thoughts that go in my brain, the sound drops are in there too. So I'm just recreating what my inner dialogue.
Mhm.
Anyways, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. All right, we're doing an ADP battle, so I'll give you the premise of the show here. Ian and I are going to look at two players close in ADP. All right. And I kind of mishmashed Yahoo and Fantrax, so it's not exact ADPs here, but we're looking at two players close in ADP, and we're going to decide which one we would choose at that position, and then, give our reasons why. And we'll see, I think we have some difference of opinion here, so that'll be excellent banter, right? But that's the story. That's what's going on. So are you ready to do battle, Ian?
Let's get it on.
Let's get to biz. Oh my God, that was a bit aggressive. I actually got a little fearful when Ian said that. So, yeah, that's I'm a little rattled, but let's move on. Okay, so for the first pick, Ian, we're in round one, and yeah, some interesting. Like first off, round one in drafts, it's a killer's row, isn't it? Oh my God. The first 12, the first 15 picks to me look like all guys you are loving to have on your team. So we're at round one, pick 8, and we're staring at Mikko Rantanen and Nikita Kucherov. Who are you taking at this position, Ian?
Well, I actually had this debate in my very first mock draft of the year on Yahoo, where I actually picked, and I'll have to look it up to see which pick it was. It was actually 7th overall, and I chose Rantanen over Kucherov, and I was sweating this one. Rantanen, Kucherov, and Jason Robertson were all available, and I
Right.
thought, let's pick the player with the most goals last season, the one who I think has the potential to score the most goals. That when you have similar point totals like that, I think the tiebreaker here is goals, because goals are more rare than assists. You can always find defensemen later on, or pick players where you're just looking strictly at point totals, and how they're constructed really doesn't matter. So I went with that. There was also the Yahoo Scouts pick advice widget that helped me out with this one. Um, so I mean, AI, I mean, it's taking over our lives, I guess, but maybe it's telling me to pick Rantanen. Um, so yeah, that's where I went with that one, and so I would have to say Rantanen on this one because of the more potential goals here, and I think he's got a slightly higher ADP as well. I did a Fantrax mock draft today, and spoiler alert, I'm going to have it on the Ramblings later this week. And I saw that Rantanen had a slightly higher ADP on there than Kucherov did. So for what that's worth.
Yep, absolutely. I appreciate the AI shout out there. Ian, don't praise the machine. All right. Oh my God. Have you seen Terminator 2, Ian? That's
It's
okay.
taken over our lives. It's just inevitable. We just have to let it do its thing.
All right. That's a positive attitude. I like that about you, Ian.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that makes total sense. Rantanen is a really interesting guy for me in the top in the first round here, because I feel like he's not a guy that players go into like, I can't wait, I'm gonna get Rantanen. I'm excited, I'm drafting Rantanen. It's like he's kind of there, right? He's there at 7. And the guy just got 104 point season. I mean, what the hell, with 50 goals. So it makes total sense. And he's a very safe first round pick, in my opinion. So I like Ranto. Obviously, both these players are elite offensive options. That said, I'm going to take Big Coochie. All right. Kucherov, and like you said, his ADP is a little bit lower, Kucherov. So, I'm saying in a bubble, Rantanen or Kucherov, I would take Kucherov. And at pick 8, I like Kucherov there, but his ADP is a little bit lower. Sometimes I've seen him going early second round, Kucherov, which is nuts to me. So I'll give you my take on Kucherov here. First off, I think that Kuch has a little bit more ceiling, which is strange to say because he's coming off a 112-point season. But I think there was some things that happened last year that I think are a little bit abnormal or a little bit low for what he normally does, right? So first off, he had the second lowest shooting percentage and second lowest shots on goal per 60 at 5-on-5 of his career, right? Just last season in this big season that he just had. Also, his on-ice shooting percentage was slightly low as well for him at 9.99%. It's usually kind of in between 10.5, 11.5. So I mean, that doesn't seem like much, but that equals more production, right? That's more assists for him. If his teammates are converting a little more, right? So I think he's got some positive regression, potentially at even strength. And then Tampa Bay, in general, I think that, they were fourth in scoring chances 4/60 at 5-on-5. They were eighth in expected goals for, and yet only 13th in shooting percentage, right? So I think there's, nothing crazy, but I think that, in previous years, they were third overall in shooting percentage. Like last year, they were third overall in shooting percentage of 5-on-5. So I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think there's a little regression there. There's a lot of mileage on these boys, isn't there? Like they played a lot of hockey over the last 5 years. And I think I'm glad that they got bounced early here because let's get a full offseason of rest for these Tampa boys. And again, for me, a really big piece with Kuch over Rantanen is also his power play, right? I think Kucherov is a premier power play forward in the league, right? He's right behind McDavid and Draisaitl. I think Kucherov's next up in terms of like elite power play performance, right? Where Rantanen is great as well, and he's on a great power play, but Kuch has just been doing it for years, and he crushed last year as well, right? So I think I love what you said about goals being harder to come by, though, and I love that as a tiebreaker. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and usually I target goals. But when I see a player like Kucherov that had a 112-point season last year, and I see a potential for some regression positively, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like that just gets me juiced, right? Like I have been doing projections this year, and as far as Kucherov, like. Well, first off, as far as Ranto goes, like I said, I love the player. I think 50 goals is a real possibility. And I projected Rantanen for 106 points and 53 goals. But I got Kucherov for more than that. It's insane. 112 points last season. For Kucherov this year, I've got him for 114 with another 45 power play points. And I just think that I just trust it a little more. He's been doing it for a long time. And not to mention Rantanen's ice time. What the hell? Like he played 22 minutes on ice, whereas Kucherov's not getting that kind of deployment. He played like 20 minutes. So I look at things like that. As far as Rantanen's deployment, he played 22 minutes and 10 seconds average time on ice last season. That's insane. What if that goes down even by 2 minutes, right? So he's still playing 20 minutes, which is elite deployment, but 2 minutes less, deployment goes down, right? So those are just things I think of, and that's what makes me sort of lean towards Kuch. But I don't know.
I could see it as well. And I was gonna say I could see Kucherov being ahead in a pure points only league. Like if I'm just evaluating on points, then I could see going with Kucherov. And in fact, in the Dobber draft list, Kucherov is actually the third highest point. Has her third highest point projection after McDavid and Draisaitl. So this was a really hard one. I mean, there's the points, there's the power play points. I mean, if I'm looking at other roto categories, I mean, there's, it's hard to say. I mean, Rantanen's had more shots. He had more shots last year. The hits, there's really not much difference. Block shots, so it's it's a tough one. It's
they're comparable.
There's a real valid argument for Kucherov, I think, too.
Yeah. One thing I think the right decision is probably Rantanen at this spot, but I think if you're getting Kucherov, like I think he's fading. People are sleeping on this man for some reason. Like he's got this injury prone moniker, right? Like he just played 82 games last season. Yeah. So I think, I don't know. I'm excited about Kucherov, and especially, if you get him at like 10 or 11 or 12, and then you pick up someone like Makar with your second pick, or even someone else crazy like Kaprizov, that's a nice start to your team for sure. So, I think you're loving both of these studs regardless. So there you go. Yeah. That's where we're at with pick one.
Yeah. They're both first round picks.
Yeah. Easy. And you're loving it. All right, moving on. All right, we've made it to round 3. The draft is humming along, and we're in the market for a defenseman. We're looking at taking our first D-man. It's pick 38, and Roman Josi is available and Adam Fox is still there. And I've actually seen both of these guys still kind of in that vicinity in high level leagues that I play too. So some of the drafts I've been doing. So yeah, where are you going? Roman Josi or Adam Fox with your third pick?
This one I went with Adam Fox. This one it depends where you're doing your draft. If it's Yahoo, he has an ADP that's higher on Yahoo. Fantrax actually has Yossi higher. So I think my rationale with Fox is, and I might be leaning towards the Yahoo ADP here, just simply because I've done more live drafts on Yahoo.
Yep.
He has the age advantage, I think, over Josi. Josi is when we talk about age here, he's now 33. It's hard to believe that time
Yeah, no
passes,
kidding.
whereas Fox is only 25. And I also like the fact that Fox seems to be surrounded by more offensive talent with the Rangers. If you compare what they have in New York compared to what's in Nashville, then I think he's at a real advantage in terms of point production. That doesn't take into account raw talent or anything, but and Yossi's also, he's battled some injuries last year. I don't think that's something that will affect him this year. But I think I would have to lean Fox on this one. All the point projections on these two are very, very close.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Adam Fox is a player for me that kind of slips by. Every time I'm drafting, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not really interested. But
Mhm.
I did when I projected him out, I couldn't believe what came out. Like I projected him for like 80 points.
Mm.
And I had to look back at that and be like, what the hell? Like this is, I had to go and check all my numbers, and I think he's an elite offensive defenseman. He might be one of the best, if not. I mean, he's not Makar, but he might be just below Makar in terms of just pure offense as a defenseman. Like this guy's a beauty. I know we're kind of not talking about Erik Karlsson here, but come on, he's had his time. Yeah, I like Adam Fox, but for me personally, Josi is my guy. I definitely would take Josi here as the second defenseman off the board right after Cale Makar. And yeah, like I said, I projected Fox, and I was amazed at what I saw there. He just does so many things well. Fox, I'm talking about, like D-zone retrieval, zone exits, zone entries with possession. Like he's elite at that, Adam Fox. Not to mention he's an elite distributor on the team. But I think, Fox will probably get more actual points than Josi, but I think Josi will get more fantasy points than Adam Fox. He just does so much more, in my opinion. And I know he's on an inferior team, but Josi is really good at driving his own play and creating his own chances, especially on the power play, right?
Yeah.
His IPP over the last few seasons, 82%, 71%, 66, 85, 74, all on the power play. Like that's ridiculous. That's just obscene. So everything is running through Josi on that top power play there in Nashville. And yeah, he has a little bit less to work with here this season, but Philip Forsberg's coming back. Ryan O'Reilly is a decent power play performer. We'll see. And Novak and Evangelista, I think those guys can step up and actually, fill some minutes and do something offensively. But check this out. This is a fun stat I've been saying because I've been talking about Fox a little bit, but in the last 2 seasons on the power play, 62 power play points for Adam Fox. Very good. 1 goal. 1 goal and 61 assists on the power play for Adam Fox over the last 2 seasons. That's nuts. Like obviously they've got a tried and true formula there in New York, but that's just a cool stat. But that said too, Josi to me is a much more solid source of goals from the back end, which is something I covet as when I'm drafting.
Yeah, and if you're multi-category too, I mean, now that I'm looking at this, I think Yossi's got a bit of advantage in the peripheral stats. He takes more shots, is significantly higher, more hits as well. Block shots is around the same. I still like Fox for points. I still like him for power play points. But those peripherals are, depending on what categories your league has, they might sort of even this out. Even if you think Fox is ahead in points. If you think Josi is going to get just as many points, then you might lean Josi on this one too.
Well, I think I projected Josi out. I don't have it right in front of me, but for 74 points and Adam Fox for 80. So I think that's completely, all my projections are bullish, by the way. I've been saying that to everybody. Like these numbers come out, I'm like, because I'm like such a optimist. I'm like, oh yeah, he'll get a little bit more, but we'll see how it goes. But like I said, I do think Josi, he just brings more to the table, like you said, peripherally. So in a points league, I would still take Josi over Fox. I think I just trust the player. He's been doing it for a long time. Obviously, Fox is elite, and you're never going to hate that pick. But yeah, and I think Fox underachieved mildly last season, like the Rangers did. So it's going to be a great season. You're going to be happy with either pick, but I just trust Josi a little more. So that's sort of where I'm at with that. I don't know. I love Roman Josi. I actually got tripped a little bit. I did a mock draft here, and I took Josi in the top 15. I think I took him at 15, which is maybe a little rich, but it was a category league. But yeah, people are like, "What are you doing?" Like,
what I might be tempted to do if you're in a Yahoo draft, if Fox has a higher ADP, is maybe wait around, pick say a forward, and then or maybe even a goalie if you feel confident enough in somebody like Shesterkin, and then wait around and then pick Josi. That might be the way to go.
Yeah, you might be able to get Josi in round 4. I
Yeah.
mean, those ADPs, I know this is something I was reading you talking on X about X. Oh God. I was reading you talking about ADPs, and I was having a little bit of a conversation as well. Just they're important, right? You need to know where guys are located, right? Because even if you're just this stud fantasy manager, like, sometimes you get sniped and you're looking at your queue and you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. And then you're going back and forth and like, you're kind of trusting the ADPs or what's right in front of your face, right? And you only have a minute to choose. So I think knowing where these players are, their draft position, like, yeah, that's going to equal major value for you. And you'll know where you need to reach and where you can hold off, right? And if you can hold off to get Josi in the 4th round, my God, that's insane. All right. I hope I get Josi in the 4th round this year. All right.
Yeah, if you can, do it.
Okay, let's move on to the next. All right. I think it's 2-0 for Ian right now. All right. I'm on the ropes. I got it. I got to get the bid.
About that.
Well, thank you. Ian.
Wouldn't give myself that much credit.
Love it. All right. Okay. We're in round 6 now. We're moving along, and we're looking for a center. And we got 2 good ones, all right, staring us right in the face here. Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings and Nico Hischer of the Devils. What say you, my man?
This is really tight. I think you're maybe let the cat out of the bag here. Your pick was Hischer. So I'm going to have to try to argue for Larkin here. I think Larkin is to me, it seems like Hischer has just sort of come on this past season. Before that, we didn't really know. I've had Hischer on my keeper team for a couple of years, and he's actually exceeded my expectations last year for him, better than I thought he would. Whereas Larkin, we've kind of known that he's been at this level for a while, or that he could produce at this level. I mean, he's played for some pretty meager Detroit teams, and they seem to be now on the upswing. The offense, there's no more of, say, Philip Hronek leading the team in scoring. That's not happening anymore. And they have some legitimate scoring threats. They've brought in Alex DeBrincat, who I think is really going to help Larkin as well. And now rumors, there's a tweet from yesterday that mentioned that Patrick Kane is, eyeing Detroit as well. And that would be a huge get for them as well, if that happens to be true. So yeah, I think maybe Larkin is the more established player here. It seems like he's been in the league quite a bit longer than Hischer, but he's only 3 years older. So yeah, that's why I think I would go with Larkin here. Last 3 years comparison, Larkin has been the better player. So I'll go with that.
Like it. I like the confidence there, my man. Yeah, I love Larkin. Actually, he's a great player. Pick 70. I think you can't go wrong with either player. As we've said with these other picks here. And Alex DeBrincat there. That's a nice little piece for Larkin, because he had a great season on the power play. I was surprised when I was digging in. Like, he had 31 power play points with 16 goals last season. Bang. Dylan Larkin. So yeah, their power play was not terrible. It was Larkin cooked at 3.5 minutes power play time on ice last season. So hopefully that's the case again. But yeah, I like Detroit. I think they're on the up, like you said. That said, I think a team even more on the up is the New Jersey Devils. And So I'm definitely taking Hischer, like you said, but it's pretty close, and they're very similar players. Like the way they play hockey, actually, like both players like to rush the puck, right? Get chances off the rush. They're very efficient at chances off the rush, and I think that both players could have positive regression at even strength. So there's that. But to me, it comes down to team metrics on this one. And New Jersey is just so much better at shot generation and chance generation that I trust that, right? And I expect more offense from their top six than I do Detroit.
Mhm.
So, like I said, nice little line Larkin has with DeBrincat there. But DeBrincat is a new face in a new place. And sometimes that, can equal a slow start, while he's trying to figure out the systems and, maybe even bounces down the lineup. Like maybe they put him on the second line and they bump somebody else up. Like Daniel Sprong. Come on, get Sprong on the line. The slinky. That's what I call Daniel Sprong. Yeah, I don't know where I love Daniel Sprong. I don't think he's going to do anything this year, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's going to take a little while for them to kind of get that first line going. It's a great move getting to bring it there for sure. So Hischer to me, though, is locked into one of the best top sixes in the league. I don't think there's any question about that. The lines are still up in the air, but I mean, he's playing with Meyer or Dawson Mercer or, Jesper Bratt or Tyler Toffoli. Like, what the hell? I mean, that's a killer's row. That's insane. So whoever
Yeah.
ends up on the line, it's going to be one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. And on top of that, Nico Hischer himself has better shot and chance metrics than Larkin. And for those reasons, I'm going to take Nico Hischer. And also, I think there's a little bit of headroom for Nico Hischer on the power play as well, right? Larkin had a great power play season, as we said. Nico Hischer, not so much, right? And he's not really required to do that much because of the offensive talents they have there. But, if Nico Hischer gets more time on the power play, which I think he might, even if it's, 15, 20 seconds, we're looking at, more points, right? Better power play share. I projected him for 23 power play points this season. I think he could exceed that for sure.
Okay.
I have Hischer for 85 and Larkin for 80 on the season. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's. I was just gonna say, it's surprising how close they were in
Yeah.
points last season. Like they were both. Like Hischer finished with 80 points, Larkin finished with 79, so they were basically just under a point a game each. Hischer scored 31 goals, Larkin scored 32. Like they were almost identical. Shots on goal, 256 to 244 in favor of Hischer. Oh, that's when you look at shots on goal differences, that's not much. Face-off winning percentage, they were both around 54%. Larkin had the slight edge in there. Plus minus. I know it's a dirty word for some people in fantasy leagues, but
Blasphemy.
you want the tiebreaker here. How about plus minus? Hischer was a plus 32. Larkin was a minus 7. So that could be, that could be another reason for picking Hischer. So I digress. But yeah, and I imagine, just looking at their projections, I don't think they're going to be that much different. I had Larkin as a sleeper just because I wouldn't call him a sleeper. I didn't list him in my sleeper article, but I wrote the DeBrincat fantasy take piece, and I had Larkin as a big winner in that deal, like probably the biggest winner of that trade, just because it gives him some offensive help. It gives him another potentially elite option that he didn't seem to have before. Before it was kind of like Tyler Bertuzzi and was his guy, and he got traded, and now you got some kind of hopings for some other guys, some younger players, and so that's I think that's going to really help his um, Larkin's value is getting to Brinkhat in, and just the rest of that team being another year older as well.
Yeah, that's so true. One of the worst L's I ever took in fantasy was I lost. I lost in the playoffs plus minus by 1+, and I smashed this man in all offensive categories. Oh God, you can't have plus minus in your leagues, people. All right, take it the hell out of there. Get it out of my sight. All right, that show ain't no good. All right, Ian, back me up on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just say I've got some pushback in the roto rankings of having plus minus in there. So there's going to be some changes to the top 100 roto rankings at Dobber Hockey that will come out on September 15th. I'll sort of give a spoiler to one of the changes. Plus minus will be gone. So the people have spoken. The voices of Twitter, I guess, and of of Dobber. Even though many of my leagues have still used plus minus, they still use it. People like it's easy enough to calculate. They don't mind it. I don't think there's as much hatred in the rest of the world that plays fantasy hockey that there is on Twitter. If I'm
There you
being
go.
perfectly honest,
Yep.
but um, but sometimes it's those, the squeaky wheel gets the greasier. So plus minus isn't the most reliable stat out there. It's focuses on the team that the player is on, and it's not really fair to guys who really good players who maybe don't play for good teams. So yeah, decision,
Yep.
it's going to be taken out.
There you go. Common sense has prevailed. To be full disclosure here, I've got like 50 burner accounts on Twitter, and I just at Dobber. All right, I'll be like, get plus minus the hell out of here. Get plus minus the hell out of here. Yeah, I've got a
Oh,
whole kind
you're
of
that
system
guy.
going on. Yeah, exactly.
Damn
Just
it.
all my burner accounts. It's fine, right?
They
But
probably
so
blocked you a few times then.
yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, that was hurtful. All right, but thank you for not blocking my main account, Ian.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I need my my Ian Gooding content here. All right, that's important. Okay, let's get to biz. Let's move on. I think those are really close players, aren't they? Larkin and Hischer. Like when I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking about this, is like, the other thing too is like fading centers is still a viable strategy in your drafts. Like if you can, right? It's because there's so many good centers, and Yahoo in particular is still working out the kinks. Like everybody is a center. Like can you everybody's not a center. Like can you give them some of the dual eligibility, like get them in their proper positions. So I think they're working that out, but
Hmm.
it's I
Yeah. I
try
think
and
the
save my
LA
center
Kings
for late
have.
possible.
I think the LA Kings have 8 players that only play center right now, or something like that on
Yeah.
Yahoo. It's just go to the Keeping Carlson thread, and you'll see their Twitter, and you'll see it. It's yeah, pretty insane.
Yeah. Their defensive strategy is just a straight line down the ice. Like that's it. Just dissect the ice. They don't move, right? I don't know where I'm
Yeah,
going with this. That's
they
not how I'm.
forgot to sign wingers, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They don't go over there, right? They're trusting
yeah,
the system.
hmm
Anyways, that's the Iser plan.
yeah.
Oh no, we're talking about Detroit, LA. I lost it.
LA,
All right, let's move on.
the Rob Blake plan.
The Rob Blake plan. All right, that sounds
Yeah,
better. They played
yeah.
together, so that's kind of like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon right there.
Center and defense. That's what you draft.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. It's our fourth pick. The battle is raging on here. I've taken some hits, but I'm still here. All right. It's we're at pick 100. Okay, and we're looking at a couple beefers. All right. Rakell. I always think of that one, like the Seinfeld. And then Adrian Kempe at pick 100. What say you? Who are you taking? Ricky Rax or Adrian Kempe?
I got to go with Kempe on this one. I just think there's with Kempe more goals. Maybe not as good a team or offensively. I don't know. Although LA is going to be pretty good, and I think they're going to hold their own offensively. I think Rakell is getting drafted a bit higher in ADP, but this is one where I've got to really beg to differ on this one, where I would reach, I would wait on maybe draft Kempe a round or two later. Kempe's got more goals. I kind of thought he was a bit of a fluke. His sort of in his breakout year, where he scored 35 goals. And what did he do? He came back and scored 41. It's consistently at 250 shots. Just seems to be a player on the rise. He's got that top line role with Anze Kopitar. Sometimes it was Kevin Fiala as well. It makes for a pretty good top line for them. I kind of see Rakell as a bit more. Kempe seems to be a player who drives play as well. Whereas Rakell, it kind of seems to be more dependent on his line mates. We kind of saw him fade near the end of his time in Anaheim, where he wasn't
Mhm.
really that useful of a fantasy option. He was, kind of was taking the path towards a breakout, and he hit 69 points in it was his fourth year,
Nice.
as per as for the Dobber 200 game, or the fourth year breakout plan. But then he started to fade, and I think it was when he got traded after he got traded to Pittsburgh. That's when we really started to see him flourish. So I think he's dependent on his teammates. I'm not sure that he gets the first unit power play time in Pittsburgh. In fact, I would have to think that he doesn't. Perhaps he squeaks on there with Gensel being injured for the first little bit, but now you've got the Carson Letang two-headed monster on defense. Um, so that might be a little hard. Whereas with Kempe, I know he's got first unit power play time in Los Angeles. He's firmly cemented in the top six, and he seems to be, unless a player like Byfield can really break out, I think that I think he's in a good spot. I don't know if he's going to score 40 goals again, but I think you can write in pen that he'll score 30 again.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely agree with you. I think you got to go Kempe here, and for all the reasons that you mentioned. They are comparable players to me, in my opinion, just in terms of what they bring to the table, and certainly last season. But the big issue for me here is that, like you said, if Pittsburgh decides to keep Letang and Carlson on power play one, Rakell is going to be the one that loses that spot, right? They're not going to kick anybody else out there. So, and Rakell had a huge season on power play one. He had 21 power play points. That's a career high for him. He's also an extreme beefer with cheese, buddy. This guy went off for 141 hits.
Mm.
I mean, what the hell got into this man? All right, he had a bee in his bonnet. All right, so that's kind of nice, right? He hit more than Kempe did, although Kempe's a beefer too, which is nice. But Rakell took definite advantage of his deployment. He played with Crosby and Gensel all season. That probably won't change, right? So his even strength deployment is still awesome, right? He's in the top six there. He's either with Crosby and Gensel or Riley Smith and Malkin. Like that's a nice place to be, right? And he's played with both of them, so he's comfortable there. That's not going to change. But the power play one loss, I think there's a really good chance that happens. So Kempe, to me though, he's a guy, like you said, he really flipped the switch over the past two seasons, upped his shots on goal per 60 and stayed consistent with it the season after, right? So, crushing for 40 goals last season, that's excellent. And to me, he's a sniper, right? He's a perfect trigger man for Kopitar and Byfield, or Kopitar and Fiala, which you mentioned there. And he's coming into his prime. He's only 26. And I think the addition of PLD, Pierre-Luc Dubois, is helps everybody on LA. But I mean, if he spends some time on that second line, like that's a nice place to be too, right? PLD is a great fantasy performer. He's a good player, right? Their center depth is stronger to me than it was last season, so he's always gonna have someone good to play with. But yeah, both these guys, the metrics I like: shots on goal per 60, individual scoring chances for per 60. They're both hovering around 10, which is what I like to see. It's just that it's just that power play time with Rakell, and I feel pretty confident in predicting that he's gonna lose it, right? So in terms of projections, I got Kempe for 72. Including 37 goals. So that's a bullish projection, but I got Rakell for 53. So to me, Rakell could be a bit of a bust this season, and not even his own fault, right? It's just losing a little bit of power play time. He's still going to be great at even strength, and in category leagues, but I don't think we can expect the 60-point season from Rakell moving forward. I don't know. And, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Pittsburgh power play. Do you think they will go with Letang and Carlson, or are they going to switch Letang to power play 2?
I think they will now, in the beginning anyway, just because, I mean the sure players that you're going to have on there are Crosby, Malkin, Gensel when he returns. Remember, he's going to start the season on IR most likely. So I think after that you've got Brian Rust, you've got Ricard Raquel. So there's a very good chance that they might pick one of them. They might go with Rust. Um, as he's been there in the past. Rakell, I don't know if he has as much power play one experience Rakell. I don't know if he has as much power play one experience as Rakell. 21 power play points last season though
Pretty
isn't bad.
darn
He did
nice.
finish with below in terms of percentage power play time. He did finish um, with over half of it. So I mean that's still pretty good. He earned his keep on there. Rust I think has a little bit more experience though, but I mean it could just as well be Rakell. So I think if you got Crosby, Malkin, one of Rust and Rakell, then you have room for Carlson and Letang. Then when Gensel gets back, he's either going to bump off one of the forwards or either Rust or Rakell, or one of the defensemen, which could be Letang. And Letang has been there for so long that
Yeah.
it'd actually kind of be a bit of a surprise if he got bumped down to the second unit, just because Pittsburgh has always stacked their first unit. They've always played them. Them and Washington have always played them close to the full 2 minutes. And just watching them play and noticing their ice times. Their second unit hardly gets a sniff of ice time. It's pretty dramatic, the drop off between their first unit and their second unit. Other teams, you don't really notice it, where the scoring is more kind of spread out. There's fewer superstars. The power play time is kind of more evenly distributed. But in this
Right.
team in particular, Pittsburgh and Washington historically have always had um, there's been a big gap between their first and second power plays.
Yeah, it's not great for fantasy. Not a great place to be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for the projections of Letang and Carlson. Nate and I just finished our third projections episode where we kind of go through both of our projections. And yeah, I really felt like, because we did Pittsburgh, I really feel like Carlson and Letang sort of eat each other's value a little bit on the power play. So instead of
Mhm.
Carlson getting 4 minutes on the power play, he's probably going to get like 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And instead of Letang getting 3.5 minutes, he's probably going to get like 3.
Yeah.
So it's just, they just kind of eat each other's value, and it's kind of stinks for fantasy, right? Because those are both extremely viable defensemen.
It's going to be like Carlson and Burns, I think. That's kind of what you have to think. When Carlson got to San Jose and Burns was already there, and said, "Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
the two of them are
Yep.
just going to pile up the points," and it didn't happen.
Yep.
Carlson didn't really have that monster season in San Jose until Burns left. It was just more of a, okay, you've got two power play distributors here, so yeah, they ended up cannibalizing each other, and I don't think it worked out the way that people thought it would.
Yeah. I
So
actually do.
it could be the same for Carlson. Like,
Mhm.
I had Carlson as a bust in my ramblings on the weekend, and easy for me to say because he's not going to get 100 points again. I think you can say that. It might be, 70 points might be a more reasonable assumption for Carlson. And you say, well, that's a bit low. I said, well, maybe if that comes true with him and Letang, that he might be lucky to get to 70 points. And then don't forget about his injury history on top of that. He's had some, last season obviously he was able to avoid the injury bug, but previous years he was, I assumed he was pretty much not done, but he
Yeah.
was not the same defenseman as he was in Ottawa.
He was trending that way, wasn't he? Like, it was just such a nice thing to see him do what he did last season. And he got the keys basically in San Jose. They're like, whatever, man, don't even play any defense. Like, just hang out at center. Like, let's get the biz. We'll get you 100 points. Like, they didn't give a crap.
Yeah,
So he's obviously going to
yeah.
have to, pick up his socks a little bit defensively in Pittsburgh. Like, their window's open. They're trying to win. So I
Yeah,
see Carlson's ice time going down for sure. He's not going to be playing 25 minutes or whatever. He'll probably play 22, offensive zone minutes. It's just, I think that Letang and Burns aren't the same. Like, they're not the same kind of player. Burns is like a
no,
shot monster, and I
true.
don't see Letang like that. So I have
Yeah.
a little bit more hope that they can coexist together, and that it's
Mhm.
not going to be, Carlson falling off a cliff like he did in the Burns days in San Jose. But yeah,
True.
it's an easy regression call for Carlson, but he's regressing from 100 points. So
Yeah.
70, yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
Eric Carlson at 70. That's freaking awesome,
That's
and I
still
think
really
that's very
good though.
realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, we're digressing. We're talking about Eric
Mhm.
Carlson when we should have been talking about Ricky Rax. All right, but that's fine. I'll take the heat on that one. Okay, we got a couple more picks. Let's get to biz. All right, Ian, you have successfully waited. You have waited patiently for your first goalie. All right, it's pick 175. It's round 14. All right, you're going 0G crazy. You're playing 0G chicken with the other
Mm.
fantasy managers. All right, it's 175. You're like, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. I need a goalie. You're looking at Phoenix Copley of LA or Carl Vejmelka of the Arizona Coyotes. Who's tickling your fancy, my man?
So I either get the milkman or I get the goalie from North Pole, Alaska.
Just horrible choices. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
what do we got?
Yeah. So, I'm yeah, I went 0G last year, and my draft day goalie was Linus Ullmark. I was lucky enough to pick him.
Yeah, there you go.
My top waiver wire goalie was Phoenix Copley, and I only thought I was going to keep him for like a week. It was between him and the San Jose goalie. I picked him up. The name of the goalie escapes me because he went right back to the minors. I think he was the Finnish goalie. His name
I know
escapes
who you're
me
talking. Yeah,
in the
I'm
AHL.
I've been thinking about
I
James
should
Reimer
know
with
this.
that
I
ding dong.
apologize. call myself an expert, and I can't remember names anymore. So, but at any rate, it was keeping between him, and I had a tough call. I said, well, I think Copley's more likely to stick around, so I'm going to stay with Copley. Sure enough, I kept him for the rest of the season. I was frequently starting him, and he's back on my team again next year. So I'm a believer in Phoenix Copley, and I'll say this because I think that he could start over 50% of their games again, like he did from the time that he was recalled from the AHL, the time that they sent Cal Peterson down. So the reason I think that, and they've got 3 goalies, mind you, they've got Cam Talbot and they've got David Rittich. Talbot should be the starter, but he's got an injury history. He's getting up there in age. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to start. He might be fairly effective when he is, but so I kind of think that Copley's is going to start the majority of the game. Light majority though. David Rittich, don't really have much faith in him anymore.
Water boy.
So and LA's going to be a good team. If there's one team in real life that's gone 0G, it's LA. And so, if you're going 0G, why not go for the 0G goalie for the 0G team?
That's 0G inception right there. Yeah, we just broke the internet, Ian. I don't know if we can continue here, but that's fine. We'll carry on. I love it. I'm so with you on this one. I really like Phoenix Copley as a 0G option. And first off, 0G, your season last year, Linus Ullmark and Phoenix Copley, that's the case for 0G right there. What the hell?
Mm-hmm. They were on different teams, mind you, but they were both on the principle of 0G.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Linus Ullmark, I got him in 2 spots last year as my second goalie, and I wasn't stoked about it. I was like, oh, man, all right, fine. I didn't do full 0G last year, which I am this season, because you know what? You got to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to just do it. But that's where I'm going. But anyways, Phoenix Copley, great option there. I absolutely agree with you. Vejmelka, he's a good goalie. I think, Arizona is going to be better. Better than what they were last season. Not better like playoffs better, but they're going to be a better team, right? They've got some really fun. Actually, I'm low-key excited about a lot of players on Arizona for fantasy.
Yeah.
In Cats leagues, they have beefers like Krause and McBain. And then, I like Schmaltz. I love Nick Schmaltz. Logan Cooley, dark horse Calder candidate there. I think he could have a great season, especially if maybe he gets on the top line there. I don't know if they would take Barrett Hayton off there, but it's just a fun team. It's really exciting, but they stink defensively. They did shore up the D a little bit. I mean, Durzee's not a good defenseman. Dumba, I think, could help there. I don't know. But anyways, for me, goalies, I'm always looking at team environment, right? And you look at LA last season, they were 9th in the league in Corsi against per 60, right? So 9th best.
Yeah.
They were 4th best in shots against per 60. And they were 2nd best in high danger chances against per 60. That's pretty nice.
I agree with all that. I mean, Vejmelka is, he's a good goalie. Don't get me wrong, but LA is just an much easier environment to play goalie and than Arizona. And here's the fact about Arizona: if you go to their cap friendly page, look up their defense. None of their defensemen are signed beyond this season. They're all going into a contract year of some form, either RFA or UFA. Okay, so that probably shows the instability of their defense. I know people say, well, they signed Dumba, he should really help. Yeah, Dumba's only signed for 1 year, and he's kind of regressed in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. Actually, I don't know what they're doing there. They're signing guys just to get to the cap floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a contract and you get a contract. But that said, I actually like some of the players on this team. I like Yusuf Alamaki. I feel like his value goes down obviously with Dursey and then Dumba in there. Plus the emergence of JJ Moser. I don't know how they're going to utilize everybody there, but some good young pieces. But I'm low key excited. But anyways, LA
Clayton Keller too. Don't forget Clayton Keller.
Oh yeah.
Leads that team. He's quite a player.
That top line, wow, what a great end of the season they had. They had a great streaming schedule towards the end of last season, and I remember just pushing these guys, on the pod so much, right? Go get Keller, go get Hayton. Schmaltz was crushing, and I think they're going to hit the ground running. I think I'm low key excited for that team, and Carl Vejmelka to me is a more than serviceable goalie. I think he can
Mm-hmm.
do the job there. He had stretches of good play last season. But
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I think Copley is the number one, in my opinion, in LA. I think, signing Talbot for $1 million for one season, and he's 38, that's backup.
Mm-hmm.
That's backup money to me. They could very well start him. It's a 1A, 1B situation there. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, they went 0G in real life, and
Yeah.
they let Corpusalo go. Why did they make an offer to this man? That's who they needed there. He played
Mm-hmm.
great last season in LA, and they just said, "See you later, buddy. Have a Coke and a smile."
Yeah.
So I was a bit surprised there, and I'm still surprised that they're going with this tandem, especially with the talent that they have in front of them. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Copley had a great season last year. So, anyways, I'm taking Copley. I like that pick because I do think he's going to be the 1A and probably get 55% of the starts and 45 to Talbot. That's sort of where I'm seeing it there.
Yeah.
All right. Last round, we got to do this. All right, it's time. We're in sleeper territory. All right, we're taking swings here. It's pick 200. Okay, we're round 16. Okay, these are your last few picks of the draft, and you've got a couple guys here. Casey Mittelstadt of Buffalo and Andre Burakovsky of the Seattle Kraken are staring you in the face. Which one are you taking?
I'm going to go with Mittelstadt just because he showed enough, I think, down the stretch of final quarter of last season where I think this could continue next season. I've heard people say Buffalo will regress a little bit in terms of scoring, which might be true, but I think they've kind of established themselves as an upper echelon team in terms of scoring, and I think that's only going to help Mittelstadt as well. So Mittelstadt, very popular waiver wire pickup during fantasy playoffs last season. 20 points in 21 games, so he was pretty reliable. They put him on a scoring line with Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuck. I believe Tage Thompson was battling some injuries, if I remember correctly, during that time, which kind of elevated Mittelstadt's ice time. So they kind of slowly got him more involved um, in the offense as well. Um, Power play time didn't really change that much. He could be. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to get onto the first unit this year. Actually, Dobber has him. Yeah, he has him projected for the second unit. But it's still going to be a pretty. So there's going to be some good young players on that second unit as well. So may not be so bad. Um, but yeah, I would. Having said that, though, I do think that players that were injured for quite a considerable portion of the previous season, I think they do get artificially pushed down the rankings, because the simple way to do rankings oftentimes is just look at point totals from last season, and I think that's what's going to happen here um, with Burakovsky, and I think there's a case for Burakovsky here as well because both could be around 50 to 60 point guys. Burakovsky he's actually been more than that. He's been 60 plus point pace over each of the last four seasons. But again, there's the kind of worry. You might kind of worry about the injury risk from last season as well. And is he going to, now that the Kraken last season and kind of established themselves as a playoff team? How much is he going to be in the mix, and is he just going to be one of? They don't really have a guy other than Matty Beniers that really sticks out. So is he going to be? Is he going to be able to establish himself on the first line, or is he going to sort of fall into, sort of that mix of, four lines that Dave Haxtell seems to use and seems to distribute evenly for ice time. So yeah.
Yeah, both interesting players to me. I loved Casey Mittelstadt at the end of last season, but yeah, like you said, Tage was injured and he was battling injuries right up to the playoffs. I think he came back early just to try and get them there, right? And
Mhm.
it didn't really work out. So Casey Mittelstadt was definitely taking advantage there. But for me, I'm taking Burakovsky here and Burakovsky, and the only reason is I just think he has a clearer path to minutes, to opportunity, right? Mittelstadt to me is behind Tage and he's behind Dylan Cousins, right? And he's
Mhm.
not on power play one, right?
Okay.
So that to me kind of caps what he's able to do, right? He's a great offensive player. He has acumen. He was a high draft pick.
Mhm.
He needs opportunity, and he got that towards the end of the year last year. Casey Mittelstadt in the last quarter of the year. His ice time was reasonable, but he got more power play time. It was just a good end of the season for Casey Mittelstadt, and he made a case for himself to get more minutes. But I just don't see how they're going to do it, right? So To me, Andre Burakovsky, yeah, like you said, he's injured. Like I've seen him in every draft I've done so far, right at the end, and I picked him up in a lot of spots because I think this is a top 6 guy in Seattle. There's not really any like Seattle. Anyone on Seattle should really give you pause. It's basically a whole team of waiver wire pickups. You know what I mean? Like they play Moneyball over there. That's the way I always look at Seattle. It's like, can you give somebody some minutes? Like Jared McCann just had 42 goals. Like 16 minutes average time on ice. What the hell? No, get this man out there for 20. They just don't care about our fantasy teams, Ian. So I don't appreciate that. All right. But Burakovsky is someone that I am low-key excited about. He still hasn't had his chance in the top 6, really, right? When he was with Colorado, he was that third line guy, and he had a decent output as a third liner there with second power play, right? Last season in Seattle, he had a 53% power play share. So he's on power play 1 over half the time, which I think could be better, right? Hopefully it gets better. His time on ice, 16 minutes, 30 seconds as a top 6er. Come on, give him a couple more minutes, right? Get him up around 18 minutes. And I think that Burakovsky just has a clearer path to some points. And I do think that he could get 65 points and a really quiet 65 points where you're like, who the hell? Andre Burakovsky. Oh my God, what team does he even play for? Like, oh, Seattle? Oh, that's nice. So just a player. I like both these players at the end of drafts, just players to be aware of because I think they're kind of similar in their point outputs. I just like Burakovsky's path a little bit more. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I go 65 for Burakovsky just because I don't think Seattle is a really great place for fantasy players. I mean, it's good for somebody like Daniel Sprong in terms of getting him actually relevant in deep leagues and sort of getting into the conversation. But in terms of getting from good to great, it's not that kind of team. It's obviously Matty Beniers has, you know, lots of upside in keeper leagues and that. But then you got a player like Jared McCann who is who's obviously found a home. He was just seemed like he was the odd man out in places like Pittsburgh and Florida didn't seem like he was relevant. Vancouver, he was just too young and sounds like he was too immature as well. But he seems like he's found a home in Seattle. Having said that, we can't get too, we're talking like 80, 90 points for McCann. It's not happening. And I would have a hard time thinking that for somebody like Burakovsky as well. Like he might, he's had 60-point pace the last few seasons. But that being said, I think, 60 points, I think is probably a more reasonable assumption for what he could do in Seattle. But very good pick. I mean, he's somebody I think you could stand out. Like when you're looking at some of those names late in your draft, and you're kind of going, oh, who out of this list really could stand out? Who can I forget? Who shouldn't I forget about here? And I think Burakovsky is that. If you're around pick 200, and you see his name, go grab him.
I love it. You heard it here first,
Yeah.
people. All right. Ian Gooding gets the stamp of approval. Andre Burakovsky, thank you for your service. All right. We like that. And it's a good podcast when we talk about the slinky Daniel Sprong twice. All right. That's a Daniel Sprong. That's 2 times Daniel Sprong love. We love that. I don't know what the hell he's going to do in Detroit, but I hope he gets some minutes there and get him on the power play for the love of Pete. I want to see what this man can do. His metrics that I like, there are, he's elite at that. But yeah, his ice time is stupid. So love you, Daniel Sprong. That's 3 times. All right, we're talking Daniel Sprong 3 times. All right, that's it for the battle, my man. Oh, that was a hard fought battle. I think you came out on top, Ian. All right, and I appreciate that. I think you took it easy on me, so that's nice. I don't know where I'm going with this. While I got you, I would be remiss. I would be not doing my job as a fantasy hockey podcaster if I have an expert here and I don't ask him about a couple sleepers. And you wrote a great article for Dobber, the Fantasy Ramblings. And you've done sleepers and busts. And I just want to talk to you about 2 of your sleepers here, Pavel Zacha and Seth Jarvis. Just if you could talk to me about those 2 players and what you like about them.
Yeah, sure. First of all, what I liked about Zaka is just opportunity. I mean, player value can change. I mean, I drafted Zaka the year in our keeper league's entry draft. I drafted him the year he was picked by the Devils, and I had high expectations for him, and I just waited for him, and he just never came around, and so I eventually just dropped him. The league is it's not it's deep, but it's not that deep where I would have to keep him. Um, Getting traded to Boston obviously really helped his value. He was able to get onto that. Once he was able to get onto that, I guess that check line with David Pasternak and David Krejci, that seemed to help his value. And obviously you've heard there's a big void in Boston now with Bergeron and Krejci both retiring, where Zacha is now the de facto number one center, and he could be centering as like Brad Marchand and David Pasternak in particular. If you can center him, then I think that's going to be great for your fantasy value. I mean, obviously, didn't Krejci is kind of in the late stages of his career, so I think his upward mobility was limited, and his goal total wasn't going to score many goals past as
Right.
really the shooter on that line anyway. But I think there's a potential here for Zacha to go 60 points plus on that, potentially on that line. Now, having said that, if the Bruins tomorrow they decide to go pick up somebody like, say, a Mark Scheifele, then just forget about everything that I've
Yep.
said here, and you know,
Never happened.
I'll just have to go into the article and just cross it out or something like
Yeah.
that. No, I'm just kidding. Then he might be might be more of a 50-point guy if that. But yeah, a lot of times in fantasy, it's opportunity, but talent is what's going to take you to the next level here. And
Right.
Zacha is showing something. He's a bigger bodied forward, so he would have needed more than 200 games to get to where he needed to go in terms of breakout. So 6'4", 200 pound, taller, more taller than bigger, I guess. But the fact that he has a taller body, then indeed those players need more time to more or less break out. So, and I think that in his case, that's what he needed here. The other player we had here is Seth Jarvis. Seth Jarvis was a very, very popular sleeper pick in last season's drafts, and that never came around. And there's a few reasons for that. It's kind of strange because his point total really didn't change. Actually, his points per game went down, but his overall point total went from 40 points to 39 points. Strangely enough, his shots on goal total nearly went up nearly a shot per game. It was 0.7 per game
Yep.
here. But his shooting percentage was basically cut in half from 15% to about 7.5. So I'm thinking that the positive regression here is really going to boost him. It should get him to at least 50 points, maybe to 60 points if he can find the right line and some much better luck here. So I think it's just a player who is inevitable, where he's going to reach the 200 game mark midway through the season, so he could be a really strong second half player. Now, just to maybe cast some doubt a little bit on Jarvis, he is a smaller player. Smaller players tend to need a little bit more time themselves, although sometimes in the case of somebody like a Jonathan Marchand, it takes them a while before they get that opportunity, just simply because um, you know looking at two equally talented players, NHL teams seem to go with the bigger player than over the smaller one. But he's been in the NHL. He's 21. He's been in the NHL for a couple of years, so maybe won't have that issue as much. But we'll see. Those are the reasons I think Jarvis. I just strictly look at the numbers and think that there's quite a bit more there.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I brought both these players up is because I agree with both of them. I mean, Pavel Zacha on Yahoo, his ADP is 159. Like, he's the only center in Boston, right? After that is Charlie Coyle. Okay. I mean, Zacha is going to get some opportunity. And I don't think they have the ability to even swing a trade. Like, I thought Elias Lindholm might go there. Yeah, Mark Scheifele is an interesting idea there, but I think Pavel Zacha is him. He's gonna be the go-to there. So I love that player. And he has some familiarity with Pasta, right? So I think he's gonna get first crack at that. And then Seth Jarvis, to everything you said, holds water for me. But also another reason why I'm excited about Seth Jarvis is the way he was deployed in the playoffs, right? He got power play 1. He got line 1, and his minutes went way up, right? Like in the season, he was 16 minutes, 12 seconds, average time on ice. In the playoffs, 19 minutes, 55 seconds. Bang. I don't see that happening, but it's probably somewhere in between. And that says to me, like they like the player, right? They liked what they saw out of him. He had 10 points in 15 games in the playoffs. Like that's pretty nice, and he's going into the third season, obviously had a regression last year. I think this is a player primed to pop, and he's not even on Yahoo's ADP right now. No one's drafting this man. So Seth Jarvis, get him in your life. I've got him in a bunch of spots. Yahoo has him as a center. What the hell? All right. Now, he's the right winger, damn it. I'm going to write a strongly worded email. I'm going to CC you, Ian, if you don't mind, just for the clout. You know what I mean? And then we can get the biz over at Yahoo. All right. I'll hit it up in my burner accounts as well. Buddy, that was a blast. Thank you so much for your time and doing this battle with me. I really appreciate that. Just a ton of good discussion here. So while I've got you, give our listeners just a taste of where you're going to be and kind of what you got cooking up here in the next little bit.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Ian_Gooding. You can also find me on the Ramblings, the Saturday and Sunday Ramblings, and every Friday I alternate with Mike Clifford, so either 2 times a week or 3 times a week, mainly on the weekends as well. I also write the compile the top 100 roto rankings. Some big changes coming in the next release in September 15th, but you can always go and check out the rankings there and use them if they're going to help you out for your mock drafts or your real drafts as well. And yeah, I'm the managing editor as well there as well. So post a lot of articles, organize things, hire new writers there as well. So always something to do there.
Absolute legend right here, Ian Gooding. Thank you, my man. You guys are crushing over at Dobber. I love these articles. I love the ramblings. Just so much good content. And then Frozen Tools, you got to have it. You got to be using Frozen Tools for your fantasy drafts. There's no question
100%.
about it. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
So
helps me. On there every day. Use it when I write my articles.
I'm on it
absolutely.
every day. Yeah, I have a problem. All right. Yeah.
All right.
I got Dobber on speed dial. All right. No, he doesn't answer though. So that's a problem. I don't know. Maybe you can help me with that, Ian. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Ian. I really appreciate that. And thank you everyone for listening to another ADP battle. We are coming back at you with another ADP battle guest and probably another mock draft. And I've got some top 10s I still want to pump out here for the podcast. But until then, celebrate your day. Bye for now.